This is Pokemon Violet, and in this video I'm going to be doing a Nuzlocke, but not just any Nuzlocke. I'm going to be wonder trading every team member until I have a completely random team. I'll be starting with just 2 Pokemon, but every time I defeat a gym leader or a Titan Pokemon, or take down one of Team Star's leaders, I'll be able to wonder trade for 1 new Pokemon. If a Pokemon faints in battle, it's dead, it's gone forever, and I have to release it. But if I can keep my team alive and defeat the champion, this run will be over. I won't be allowing my team to be a higher level than the next gym leader's ace Pokemon, so if I wonder trade a Pokemon with too high a level, I'll have to trade it again. Now with the rules set out, it's time to start. Okay, let's see what we can get for our first Pokemon of the run. Let's find out what it is. Fingers crossed it's something decent, and hopefully a decent level. Ooh, Rockruff, okay. What level is it though? Can we actually use it? Thank you, Ben, for your Rockruff. It's level 13, okay. Alright, gives me room for 2 level ups until the first gym, so I think it'll be alright. As long as the other one that we trade isn't like super high level. Right, let's check the moveset and ability. We've got Keen Eye. Pokemon's Keen Eye prevents its accuracy from being lowered. That's pretty decent, to be fair. And my fat head is directly in front of all the moves. Right, we've got Leer, Sand Attack, Double Team, and Rock Throw. That's pretty decent. Right, we're sending our starter out. Let's see what we get. Right, Quaxley, it's been an honour. Ooh, Munchlax, okay. What level is it though? Nice, it is level 1, okay. Let's check its summary. Move my fat head out of the way. We've got Tackle, Lick, and Belch with the Thick Fat ability. With our new team ready to go, we head towards the first city and level up Munchlax a little bit along the way. He can't stay level 1 forever. It didn't take long before Nomura wanted another fight, but with both of her team members weak to rock, she didn't stand a chance. Even after terrestrializing her poor me, it still nearly went down in 1 hit. Rockruff's Rock Throw just seemed to be a bit too much for Nomura at this point, and she didn't cause me any trouble at all. I doubt the battles are going to continue being this easy, but at least for now we can move on. With Nomura down, we head to the first major city and the location of the Trainer Academy. Here we find most of the main story quests and meet a lot of major characters for the story. We meet a mysterious girl with red and blue hair and use Munchlax to defend her against Team Star. Nomura hands us our very own Terror Orb and we use it to make short work of the second member of Team Star. The girl thanks us for our help and quickly runs away. After speaking with some teachers, we meet a woman in a black suit that Nomura claims is a very powerful trainer. She then tells us about the gym challenge and Victory Road to initiate the main quest and send us on our way. Arvin tells us about the Titan Pokemon and initiates the Path of Legends quest too. We're then introduced to a professor that went missing in Area 0, and the director tells us that he thinks Miraidon may be one of the Paradox Pokemon that resides there. We head to bed and get ready for the new journey ahead of us. The next day we receive a call from Cassiopeia, a mysterious person that needs our help taking down Team Star. This starts the Starfall Street side quest of the game and shows us where all the locations of the Team Star bosses are. On my way to the first gym, I run into a Diglett with the Fighting Terror type, and it suddenly occurs to me that my entire team is weak to the Fighting type. This can be a big problem as this Diglett's level 17 and I don't think we can even run away from it. After a few attempts, I got lucky and Munchlax managed to run away. We got away from this one unscathed. That was too close. I found a truck on the way to the first gym, but unfortunately we don't have strength, so we're going to have to leave Mew here for now. After reaching the first gym, we're met with a challenge, some nonsense about pushing an olive around the track. Usually I'd fight the additional trainers in the gym, but I'm trying not to overlevel Rockruff at this point, so I just push all the way to the end and score a goal with the olive. Now we can fight Katie, and for some reason she's speaking to a Pavilion that isn't even in her team. She starts the match with a Nimble, and I decide to start with Rockruff since he has the type advantage, and immediately Terror Evolve. One rock throw is enough to one-shot the Nimble, and with a second rock throw we take out Tarantula in one hit too. Her ace is a bug type terrestrialized Teddiursa, and I dare you to try and say that 10 times fast. This could be a problem, but with Rockruff's rock throw, I think we're going to be alright. We take it below half with one rock throw, and in retaliation he uses Fury Cutter. That hit harder than I thought it would, and if we miss this rock throw, Rockruff's out. Luckily we land it and we finish off the Teddiursa. With that final hit, we defeat Gym Leader Katie and earn our first badge. Lamora calls to tell us how boring she is, and we tell her we already know. And it's now time for us to catch a random Pokemon to trade for our third team member. Okay, we're sending Diglett off, let's see what we're going to get in exchange. I'm hoping for a fire type or a water type, to be honest. A Mareep, okay. I'll happily take that. Ampharos is an absolutely sick Pokemon. Let's see what level it is. And it's level 9. Okay, that's pretty good. It's got Thunder Shock, Thunder Wave, Growl and Tackle with Static. That's pretty good. I'll take it. With Mareep on the team, I decided to head to the Rock Titan next, as the level cap for that is 16. I got confused and headed to the desert with Iron Treads in there instead, and we ran into this Rufflet, which was level 22, but I thought we could take it. Munchlax came very close to dying, but luckily we managed to take it out. Unluckily, however, we got a bit too much XP and Rockruff went to level 17. This meant I can't use him in the next fight. Surprisingly, Munchlax evolved after this fight. I thought it would take a lot longer for him to evolve into Snorlax, but I'm not complaining because we're going to need him in the next fight after losing Rockruff. Snorlax is going to be a necessary tank for the team, and I'm very happy to have him. I may have gone the wrong way, but this meant that I found Thunderbolt, which I immediately taught to Mareep. This was kind of dumb, as Mareep probably learns Thunderbolt naturally, and it probably would have been better for me to give it to Snorlax, but nonetheless, Mareep now knows Thunderbolt. I also leveled up Snorlax, which meant that he learnt Bite, which is going to be really crucial for the next fight. It was time to face Thorf, and I immediately Terror Evolved Snorlax to give myself a fighting chance against him. My Snorlax does have the Defense Curl move, but I decided that I'd use Bite instead, and just see how I went. I know that this Cloth has Rock Smash, which is a fighting move and super effective against Snorlax, but I decided to take the chances, and he just used Vice Grip anyway. It didn't do too much damage, and my Bite was taking a hefty chunk every time I used it. After a back and forth of Vice Grips and Bites, I managed to take down the first phase of this fight and send Cloth running. For the second phase, we had Shelder and Arven on our team. Shelder's Water Gun did a decent chunk to the Titan Pokemon, and I decided to use Defense Curl just in case. I really didn't want Snorlax to go down here, so I went for a second Defense Curl and then just started using Bite. Luckily the Cloth just kept going for Shelder, and I did alright in this fight. I was expecting this to be a lot harder than it was, but after a few hits, the Cloth went down and we took this Titan Pokemon out. I had a really nice surprise after this fight. Mareep decided it was going to evolve into Flaffy. I don't know all the levels of which my Pokemon evolve. I prefer it to be a bit of a surprise, and this was a very welcome surprise for me. After heading into the cave with Arven, we found a mystical herb, and he made a sandwich out of it, which I fed to Miraidon. This lets me use the dash ability in the outer world, and with that, it's time to find our fourth team member. Hopefully we can get a fire type, because the next gym's grass. Let's see what we got. Okay, it's that ice type. I'm not sure what its name is. Like Centurice or something? Or Titan, I think its name is. Cetoddle, okay, I think it evolves into the one I was talking about. After reaching the new town, we find a maze, which is completely pointless because Miraidon can literally just jump over the whole thing. There weren't any useful items in there either, which I found a bit weird. We've reached the grass gym and we're faced with another challenge. This time, there's a ton of sunflora all around the city and we've got to go and collect them all up. This challenge didn't cause me any problems, apart from one thing that happened. I wasn't expecting that one of the sunflora would want a battle. It wasn't the battle itself that was actually a problem. The problem was Rockruff was very close to over-leveling again, and I didn't want to have to deal with that. We took down the sunflora, and of course Rockruff leveled up. This means I can't use him in the next gym. The next gym is grass type, so I probably wouldn't have used him anyway, but it is still quite annoying. This leader's definitely got a screw loose, and his health and safety standards in his gym are pretty low. I lead this battle with the ice type that I've already forgotten the name of, and since it's written in Chinese I'm probably not going to remember. Brassius leads with his Petilil, which I don't think is going to be too much of a problem for us. I knew my ice type moves were going to be my best bet here, so I decided to Terrastalise straight away to give myself the upper hand. The plan was pretty much to just spam Ice Shard until I won the battle, and that's what I was going to do. Our first attack hit really hard and took Petilil below half health. It retaliated with Sleep Powder, which would have been really bad, but we managed to avoid the attack. I went for another Ice Shard knowing I'd take it out. That's exactly what happened. Next up, Brassius decided to use Smoliv, and this thing has basically no defences, so I'm just going to go for Ice Shard again and hope for the best. Did a lot of damage again and nearly took the Smoliv out in one hit. It hits back with a Razor Leaf, but it didn't do very much damage. We were able to do another Ice Shard to take it out. He sent in his Sudowoodo and Terrastalised it into a grass type. This was kind of stupid because I was using Ice Shard, so I was now able to do super effective damage to it. It didn't do quite as much as I'd liked, but after one Trailblaze, which did more damage than I would have liked, I decided to go for another Ice Shard, so I think we can take another Trailblaze. This was the moment that I realised that I'd messed up. I didn't realise that Sudowoodo would have a rock type move, and with that silly mistake, we have our first death of the run. Losing my ice type is a bit annoying, but to be honest, if I had to lose one of them, it probably would have been this guy. I switched into Snorlax and started using Bite. After a few hits, Sudowoodo was taken out. In hindsight, I probably could have switched out before Sudowoodo came in, and Snorlax probably could have tanked anything Sudowoodo would have used, but at least with this gym badge down, we can Wonder Trade for a new member to replace him. We do some yoga with Miraidon, and he's getting very good at the downward dog. This Squawkabilly looks like a good candidate for a Wonder Trade, so I caught it. Right, we're sending Squawkabilly off. Let's see what we'll get in exchange. We've got water and electric gyms coming up next, so our type advantage is pretty good. So I'm hoping for maybe like a psychic or a fighting type for one of the later gyms. We'll see what we get. Oh, okay. I've already got an electric type, but I guess Pull Me will do. We'll take him. Could be useful later. It was now time to take on the Flying Titan, and with two electric type Pokemon in our team, I didn't think we'd have any trouble with this. I Terrastalised immediately and Bombardier went for a wing attack. This did a decent amount of damage, but Static managed to get the paralysis off. We went for a Thunderbolt, and this was enough to wipe out the Sky Titan in one hit. With phase 1 complete, I decided to Terrastalise again. This time we had Arven on our side, and after seeing that the Sky Titan had Rock Throw, this was going to be a bit of an issue for Flaffy. We hit a decent damage with the Thunderbolt, but I really didn't want Flaffy to get hit with a Rock Throw and potentially go down. I decided to switch in for Rockruff because I knew Rock Throw wouldn't do too much damage and neither would Wing Attack. Luckily Bombardier just kept going for Knackley, and Knackley just kept using Rock Polish. Rockruff still has the type advantage here, so I went for one final Rock Throw to finish the second phase of this fight. It's starting to dawn on me that I should probably look up the movesets of these Pokemon before I go against them, but I think not knowing is part of the fun. With that final hit, the Sky Titan falls, and it's time to go and find the next Mystica herb. We head into the cave with Arven, and he uses the next Mystica herb to make another sandwich. After giving our half to Miraidon, he explains that he's making these sandwiches to give to his Mabostiff. This is a Pokemon that he's had for a long time, and it's not very well. Arven believes that if he collects all of the Herba Mystica and feeds them all to Mabostiff, then it will get better. We tell Arven that we'll help him get all the rest of the Herba Mystica and try and heal his Pokemon with him. It seems to already be working, and Arven's very grateful for our help. With this next Titan Pokemon down, it's time to get our newest team member, so we catch a Numel and decide to Wonder Trade it off. This would technically be our 6th team member, but we lost the Ice type, so we'll see what we get. Ooh, that's very, very good. We got a Larvesta. That means we can get a Volcarona, which is Bug and Fire type, which is excellent for the team. As we head towards the first Team Star base, we're introduced to Clive, someone who looks very familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on where I know him from. After that, Pormy evolves into Pormo. This is really good news because Pormo can evolve pretty much straight away after. All I need to do is run round in circles until I've done 1,000 steps and then level him up with a rare candy I found earlier. I take him to a place where there are no enemies to fight and run round in circles until I'm ready to evolve him. Pormy evolves into Pormor, and with that we're ready to take on the first Team Star base. Unfortunately we can't take Snorlax because once again I've overleveled one of my Pokemon. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this guy's name, but he uses a Pawniard first, so I send out Pormor. I go for Dig, and his Pawniard is pretty easily taken out in one hit. Now we're on to the real challenge of the fight. I go for Dig again, but his Reverum takes barely any damage. He retaliates with a Swift, but it doesn't do too much damage. I opt for Arm Thrust as it's super effective, but it's also not doing very much damage. I decide it's pretty much my only option to just keep going for Arm Thrust and hope for the best. My next few Arm Thrusts hit a few more times, and luckily he goes for Metal Sound instead of using a move that would actually damage me. Once again I go for Arm Thrust and see how much damage it's going to do this time. He uses a Metal Sound again, and I feel like our special defense is getting a little bit too low. I was considering switching out, but I decided to go for another Arm Thrust, which was a big mistake. Pormort fell to a Swift, and with that we've lost the second member of our team. It was disappointing, but now I could send Larvesta in, who could use a super effective Struggle Bug and finish off the Starmobile. I terrestrialized it just in case to give it that extra strength with its bug type moves. Losing Pormort here was pretty disappointing, but at the end of the day I did have 2 electric type Pokemon, so if I was going to lose anything, one of those would be okay. The Struggle Bug took it really low and the second one took it out, and with that we defeated the first member of Team Star. We said goodbye to Pormort as we released him from the box, but since we beat a member of Team Star, we could Wonder Trade for something else. I caught a Mudbray to send off on the Wonder Trade, and something really strange happened. As we sent Mudbray away, someone sent one back. I had my record on mute during this, but I was pretty happy with this trade. Mudbray's a really good Pokemon and it evolves into something very strong, so this will be a good one for later. It had the Fire Terror type too, so I'd be able to change its type at a moment's notice. It had Double Kick, Bulldoze, Stomp, Mud Slap, and Own Tempo, which is some good moves and a very good ability. On my way to the Electric Gym, Nomura wanted a battle. She sent in Rockruff first, and I sent in my new Mud Spray. I'm not really sure why, but I decided to Terror Evolve it. Rockruff went for a bite, and I flinched. Kind of annoying, but it didn't do too much damage. Rockruff then used a Rock Throw, which was super effective and took me down into the orange, but after a double kick from Mud Spray, Rockruff was nearly out. I didn't want to take any risks here, so I switched out to Snorlax. One Trailblaze was more than enough to finish off Rockruff. After that, Nomura sent in Pour Me. I sent in Rockruff, and one rock throw nearly took it out. With its speed lowered, it used the Nuzzle. This paralysed me. Luckily, we hit first next turn, and a rock throw finished off Pour Me. She sent in her Crocodile and Terror Evolved it, so I kept Rockruff in and went for a rock throw. Crocodile's speed fell, and with that we used another Rock Tomb. It went for Incinerate and took Rockruff into the orange. Another Rock Tomb nearly took Crocodile out, but I didn't want to take any risks, so I switched to Snorlax. And Incinerate didn't do too much damage to it. I went for Bite to finish it off, and with that we beat Nomura. It was time for the electric gym. She started with Wattrel, so we started with Rockruff. The Rock Tomb did massive damage and took her Wattrel out in one hit. Her next Pokemon was Bellibolt, so I decided to switch into Mudspray. It went for a Water Gun, which luckily didn't do too much damage even though it was super effective. I hit with a Bulldoze, which took over half of its health. I knew that I could go for another Bulldoze, and luckily with the speed drop, we hit first before it could even hit another Water Gun. Next up was her ace, a Miss Magius with the Electric Terror type. She immediately Terror Evolved and went for Hex. This did massive damage to Rockruff and put him down to 2 HP. That was really close. We hit her with a Rock Tomb and it didn't do too much damage. I decided to switch out. I went for Snorlax expecting her to use Hex. This would have absolutely no effect on Snorlax, and luckily she did do that. The Hex missed, and the plan was to just spam Crunch until I took Miss Magius out. One hit and a critical hit, and Miss Magius fainted. This was the end of the electric gym, and our third badge. I still had my mic on mute for the next Wonder Trade, but I sent a Magnemite out to see what I would get in return. And we got a Fuecoco. This is brilliant. A start will be excellent for the team. After a little bit of training, Crocodile evolved, and it was time to take on Mela and the Fire Team Star base. These Team Star bosses aren't much of a threat, but their final Reverums can really pack a punch and easily knock a team member out. I start with Lycanroc and Terror Evolve it, going for a Rock Tomb, which nearly knocks Torkoal out in one hit. It retaliates with a Flame Wheel that does very little damage. Lycanroc outspeeds the Torkoal, and I go for another Rock Tomb to knock it out. These earlier Team Star bosses only have one Pokemon apart from their Starmobile, so she goes straight for the Reverum. These Reverums take on the type of their trainer's team, so this one's Fire type. It goes for a Screech and misses, which is a really good start. Lycanroc uses a Rock Tomb, and I'm hoping for some big damage with this one. It does less than I would have liked, but with another 2 Rock Tombs I should be able to take it out. Its speed boost raises its speed every turn, so I need to do this quick. It goes for its signature move, Blazing Torque, and doesn't do too much damage. I'm not positive Lycanroc can take another one of these, especially not a critical hit, but I go for another Rock Tomb, taking it into the orange. It's a bit of a risky decision, but I decide to keep Lycanroc in and go for another Rock Tomb. It goes for another Blazing Torque, and losing Lycanroc here would have been really bad. Luckily, it only took it down to 19 HP, and Lycanroc easily survived, using one more Rock Tomb to take it out. With that final hit, we take out the second Team Star boss, and it's time to add a new team member to the party. Okay, I think that's going to be too high a level, to be honest. We might have to trade that one again. That Iron Bundle was stronger than the Champion's Ace, so we had to send it off. Okay, second time lucky. Let's see if we can get something different this time. Hopefully something we can actually use. Snivy. That's really weird, okay. I mean, I'll definitely take it, I'm happy with that. Cool, another starter. That looks really weird. It was time for the Steel Titan Orthworm, and this went exactly how you'd expect. With Crocodile leveled up, we had a fire type which is super effective against steel. Not to mention the fact that you have Arven on your side, and even though he doesn't do too much damage, he's really good at keeping aggro. We terrestrialise Crocodile and just go for Incinerate. It does over half damage. Just to rub salt in the wound, Arven's Toadskull uses Supersonic and confuses it. We go for another Incinerate as it's Crocodile's only fire type move, and since it did over half damage last time, this should knock it out. It breaks through the confusion and uses Sandstorm. This isn't even going to damage us since we're taking it out this turn anyway. We enter the cave and find another Herba Mystica, which Arven cooks up into another sandwich from a Bostiff and Miraidon, which takes us one step closer to healing him and making Miraidon just a little bit stronger. The Water Gym's up next, so we do a little training with Snivy and he evolves into Servine. With the Steel Titan down, it's time for another trade. Right, we beat the Steel Titan and we caught a Roly-Coly, so we're going to send it off now and see what we get. Wow, okay, it's Xylos. I'm actually really okay with that. Hopefully it's a decent level. Okay, it's level 45 and it has a bug terror type. It's got Dragon Pulse, Dark Pulse, Bite, Scary Face and Hustle ability with a careful nature. It's above our level cap for now, but later on this is going to come in really handy. We head for the Water Gym and meet the guy who has hair in all the wrong places. I lead with Servine and Terror Evolve it, not realising that his Veluza has a super effective move in Pluck. We set up the Leech Seed, and with a few Mega Drains, we managed to take the Veluza down and not lose too much health in the process. Next up is Bug Trio, and this thing's not going to be a massive threat. It uses a Headbutt and does very little damage. Servine uses a Mega Drain and takes the Bug Trio out in one hit. After that, Servine's nearly at full health, which is a really good thing since it's time for the leader's ace. I probably should have swapped to Ampharos here, since Crabominable has the ice type, but I set up a Leech Seed, and since Crabominable has Terror Evolved into a water type, it means my grass type moves will still be effective. Luckily he goes for a Slam, which misses, and we heal up a little bit with Leech Seed. Since we're at full health anyway, I go for a Magical Leaf for the extra damage. This hits hard and another one will take it out. It uses Slam again and this time it hits. Pretty hard to be honest, but I think we'll be alright, especially since we got a little bit of health back from Leech Seed. We go for another Magical Leaf and Servine outspeeds, winning us this battle. With the Water Gym complete, it was time for another trade. Okay, we're trading Diglett, see what we can get. Hopefully a water type would be really good. And preferably one that's in the level cap that we can use now. Numel, okay. Another fire type, that means we have 3 fire types now. Which is not great, but take what we get. We head to Team Star's Poison Base, and it's time to take on Atticus. I lead with Mudsdale and go for a high horsepower. I'm not sure why I terrestrialized it, I think I forgot it was a fire type. Either way, we go for a high horsepower and take the Skuntank out in one hit. For some reason he has a Reverum, even though he's got a Starmobile Reverum, and it goes for a Bulldoze, which does a lot of damage. Mudsdale uses another high horsepower and hits the Reverum out in one hit. I don't want to take any risks, so I send Ampharos in instead, as Atticus goes for his Muck. We decide to go for Thunderbolt to see how much damage it'll do, and Muck uses Sludge Wave. Sludge Wave doesn't do too much, but neither does Thunderbolt. It looks like it's going to be a back and forth here. We go for Thunderbolt again, and he uses Sludge Wave again. Ampharos is down to the orange, and so is Muck. We're doing a little bit more damage, so I go for another Thunderbolt, as he goes for another Sludge Wave. Takes Ampharos down to 14 HP, but a Thunderbolt's enough to take it out. It's time to swap Ampharos out, because I don't want to lose him in this fight. I send in Snorlax, and he sends in his Snarmobile. Noxious Talk does just under half damage, and I go for a Flamethrower to see how much it'll do. With another Noxious Talk, Snorlax is knocked into the orange. Flamethrower doesn't do too much damage, and I'm not really sure what to do here. I decide to take a risk and go for rest as Noxious Talk knocks me into 13 HP and poisons me. Luckily, rest is going to heal all of this and put Snorlax back up to top health. This fight took a while, so I'll skip to the end, but basically I kept using rest and then doing a little bit of damage in between. I slowly chipped away at its health until Snorlax was able to win this fight. It went for a final flame charge and Snorlax used Body Slam to finish it off. I sent a Shroodle away to see what I would get in return. We really lucked out on this one as we got a Charmander. This is going to come in really handy for the Ice Gym later, and Charizard's just an incredible Pokemon in general. We did a little bit of training with Charmander and he managed to evolve into a Charmeleon. With that, it was time for the normal gym. I went in with Mudsdale first. His Kamala used Slam, but managed to avoid the attack. Mudsdale went for a super effective double kick and nearly took Kamala out in one hit. We chose double kick again to take it out and Kamala just used Yawn. This is kind of annoying because it means we're going to have to swap out Mudsdale, but at least he won't fall asleep before we can do that. With his Kamala down, it was time for his Dunsparce and I decided to switch into Lycanroc. The Dunsparce paralysed Lycanroc. This could be kind of bad, but Rock Tomb's doing a decent amount of damage, so we go for it again. One more Rock Tomb will be enough to take this Dunsparce out, as long as it doesn't have any tricks up its sleeve. It hits us with a Drill Run, which does insane, and I do not want to risk losing Lycanroc at this point, so I switch back to Mudsdale. It uses Drill Run again, but this time it doesn't do anywhere near as much damage. We go for a double kick because we know it's super effective, and we manage to take the Dunsparce out. It's time for its ace. I didn't think this thing was going to cause us too many problems, but after using Facade, I realised just how much of a threat this thing actually is. I hit with a high horsepower and it does half damage, but I know it's going to outspeed next turn. There's nothing I can really swap into because I think it outspeeds everything I have, which means it will get 2 hits on anything, which I think is going to take out even Snorlax. This is a really tough decision, but I think I'm going to have to let Mudsdale go. We keep Mudsdale in and pray for a miracle. We don't get it unfortunately, and with another Facade, Mudsdale falls. That was easily one of our strongest Pokemon, and it's really disappointing to lose him here, but we do have a lot of replacements in the PC, so I send Ampharos in to finish the job. It outspeeds just as I expected and goes for a Facade. It hits Ampharos all the way into the orange, and we go for a Thunderbolt in retaliation. Luckily it takes out the Staraptor, and with that, we finish the normal gym. I wasn't given a chance to send Mudsdale away yet, and I was forced into a rival battle with Nomura. I decided the best thing to do here would be to just use random items until Mudsdale fell. This way I didn't actually use him in the fight and it wouldn't be cheating. I sent in Serperior to fight Lycanroc, and an Accelerock didn't do too much. I went for a Leaf Blade and managed to take it out in one hit with a critical. I tried to set up Leech Seed on Goomy, but it had Sap Sipper and I ended up just boosting its stats instead. Went for a Dragon Pulse and did a fair bit of damage, so I swapped into Ampharos. It hit Ampharos with a Dragon Pulse as well, but it didn't do too much damage. I decided to go for a Thunderbolt and see how much it could do. It didn't do as much as I expected, but a Dragon Pulse was also not doing too much damage. I tried a different tactic here and went for Power Gem instead. Hopefully this would do a little bit more. I landed a critical hit and took the Goomy out. Nomura sent in Pormo, and I stupidly sent in Lycanroc, completely forgetting that Pormo was a fighting type. I hit it with a Rock Slide and we managed to get the flinch. This was really good as another Rock Slide was enough to just take it out. I avoided being punished for that silly mistake, and it was time for our next Pokemon. Last up was her Skeledirge, and she terrestrialized it too, so I went for a Rock Slide. This thing's really dangerous, but we managed to take it into the orange with one hit. I went for a Rock Tomb because I know it's got better accuracy, and we managed to hit first, outspeeding it and taking it out before it could do anything. With that, we beat Nomura and we could trade our Mudsdale to see what we could get for a new team member. I managed to mute my mic again for this one, but I sent Mudsdale off to see what we could get as a new Pokemon. We managed to score a Piplup, which is incredible. A water type's really good, especially a starter, so I'm really happy with this one. I decided to do a bit of training in preparation for the Ghost Gym, and we managed to get the evolution on Piplup. We evolved Servine into Serperior, and Primplup into Empoleon. We also got Charizard in the process. It was time for the Ghost Gym, and the team was looking pretty overpowered at this point. I wasn't too worried for this one. Even with a double battle, she sent in her Mimikyu and Banette. I sent in Lycanroc and Snorlax since they both have Dark type moves. A Shadow Sneak did nothing to Lycanroc, and a Sucker Punch took it into the orange. It was our turn, and one crunch took Banette into the red and lowered its defense. Another crunch from Snorlax was enough to take the Banette out. She sent in Houndstone, and Lycanroc used a crunch to take it into the orange. Mimikyu set up Light Screen, which could be annoying later on. The Houndstone used Phantom Force and disappeared, which meant that Snorlax's crunch was going to miss. The next turn, Lycanroc used Crunch on Mimikyu, and I knew that the Houndstone was going to hit first, so I used Snorlax's Crunch on Houndstone. Mimikyu's disguise broke, and it used a Slash on Snorlax for pitiful damage. Phantom Force knocked Lycanroc out. I really wasn't expecting that. It's quite disappointing to lose Lycanroc at this point, especially as he was one of my starters. But the crunch takes the Houndstone out, leaving only Mimikyu and her ace. I send in Charizard and Terastallize. She sends in Toxtricity and does the same thing. Charizard goes for a Flamethrower on the Toxtricity and does a decent amount of damage. Mimikyu's Slash does basically nothing to Snorlax again, and Toxtricity's Discharge hurts everyone. Snorlax's Crunch takes out the Toxtricity, and all that's left is the Mimikyu that's been there from the start. We've pretty much won the battle now, and in hindsight we really didn't need to lose Lycanroc here. Charizard goes for another Flamethrower and takes the Mimikyu out. We may have lost Lycanroc, but we've got another trade now, so maybe we can get something better. We got to get rid of Lycanroc anyway, so I thought I'd just use him for the trade. We've got a Zweilos that's level 45, which is the new level cap. Stantler's not great. We'll use the Zweilos that's the new level cap. But yeah, we'll keep Stantler in the PC for now. It was time for the Earth Titan, and I led with Serperior and went for a Mega Drain. This did a lot less damage than I was expecting. It wasn't doing too much damage, and Arven's Scovillain was on our side as well, which meant it could take aggro. It went for a Scary Face, lowering its speed, and we went for another Mega Drain to take Serperior up to nearly full health. Scovillain went for a Fire Fang and did a decent little chunk. The Iron Treads wasn't doing too much, and it just kept going for Scovillain anyway, so I went for a Leaf Blade to see how much damage it would do. It hit pretty much the same as Mega Drain, and Scovillain's chip damage with the Fire Fang was pretty good as well. We managed to land a Flinch, and another Mega Drain took it down to basically red health. Serperior was now at full health again, and I think this battle was pretty much over. Another Fire Fang knocked it into the red, and it used a Stomping Tantrum, which did basically nothing, apart from knock out the Scovillain that wasn't even mine in the first place. Another Mega Drain managed to take Iron Treads down, and that Titan was finished. We grabbed another Herba Mystica with Arven, and we made some more sandwiches for our dogs. There was only one more to find after this, and we were one step closer to healing my Bostiff. I'm pretty happy with the team, how it is now. We've replaced Lycanroc with Zweilos, so pretty much whatever we get here is just a bonus. We've got some backups in the PC as well. Ooh, okay. Trapinch. So it would take a bit of training, but we'd get a Flygon, so I think it's worth it. I'll probably hang on to it for now, but that's a really good one for if we lose a team member. It was time for yet another fight with Nomura, and we actually took her out pretty quickly this time, so I decided to just skip to the end. Her Skeledirge terastallized, and so did our Empoleon. We decided to go for an Aqua Jet, and it didn't do too much. Her Skeledirge went for a Torch Song, and this also didn't do too much. It went for another Torch Song and for some reason outsped me this turn, even though I was faster last turn. This time she got a critical hit, and it hit a lot harder than last time. Took Empoleon all the way down to 17 HP and rose its special attack again. I don't know why I didn't go for Water Pulse in the first place, but I went for one this turn and managed to take the Skeledirge out in one hit. This was also a critical hit, but I don't know how much that had to do with it. Now it was time for the Psychic Gym, and Tulip started with a Farigiraf. I decided it was time for a debut for Xylos, since he was Dark type, and he'd have the advantage here. I went for a Dark Pulse, knocking it down to half health, and managed to get the flinch. This is a really good start. Another Dark Pulse managed to take the Farigiraf out, and Xylos is doing really well for his first battle. He's not even taken damage yet. She sent in Gardevoir, and I have no idea why I didn't swap out, because I know full well that Gardevoir is a fairy type. This took out Xylos, which was a real shock, to be honest. I don't know why it was such a shock. I probably should have seen that coming. I sent Snorlax in next, and the Psychic did barely anything. We retaliated with a Crunch, and then another Crunch. This took her down to the red, and she just kept using Psychic. Snorlax was getting pretty low, but with another Crunch, we managed to take the Gardevoir out. She sent Esparthra in next, and we decided to stay in with Snorlax. It tanked another Psychic, and I went for Rest, bringing Snorlax all the way back up to 215 HP. I decided to just spam Crunch until Snorlax woke up, and Esparthra just kept going for Psychic, which wasn't really doing too much damage. Snorlax woke up and hit a Crunch, nearly knocking the Esparthra out in one hit. I went for Rest again just to be safe, and it carried on using Psychic. He finally woke up and hit their second Crunch, taking the Esparthra out. All that was left was her final Pokémon. She sent in Florigress and terrestrialized it into a Psychic type, as I sent in Serperior and set up a Leech Seed. It went for a Moonblast, which did a lot more damage than I was expecting, but luckily Leech Seed brought us back up above half health. I was pretty confident that Serperior could survive another one, so I decided to terrestrialize him and go for a Giga Drain. We outsped, which meant that we could definitely survive a Moonblast. Just as I expected, it went for another Moonblast. It took Serperior down to 27 HP, and Leech Seed recovered a little bit. I wasn't confident that Serperior could survive much more of this, so I sent Empoleon in instead, and it turned out to be a really good choice. Moonblast did barely anything, and I could retaliate with Metal Claw, doing a decent amount of damage every turn. She just kept using Moonblast, and I just kept using Metal Claw, until finally I took out her ace. With this, we beat the Psychic Gym, and it was time to trade for a new team member. It's kind of annoying that we lost Xylos in that fight, but we do still have Trapinch, so we can get a Flygon, which is a Dragon type, for the champion battle and for the Elite Four, so... I have absolutely nothing to say about that. So for a quick team recap, we've got Charizard, Empoleon, Serperior, Ampharos, and Snorlax, all at level 46. Trapinch has just joined the main lineup, he's level 25. And then in the PC we've got Larvesta, Crocodile, Numel, Gumshoes, and Stantler. After a little training, Trapinch evolved into Vibrava, and it was time to take on the Ice Gym. We started with Charizard and terrestrialized straight away. We went for a Flamethrower and took out the Frostmoth in one hit. She sent in Beratic next, and we went for Flamethrower again for another one-hit KO. The Titan tanked the Flamethrower, but it was on less than half health. It hit with a super effective liquidation that I wasn't expecting, but I knew we would outspeed, so I went for flamethrower again. We took it down and it was time for her ace. It was an Altaria and she terrestrialized. I sent in Snorlax and tanked an Ice Beam. We went for Hammer Arm, but unfortunately we missed. It went for Hurricane next turn, which did a little bit more damage, but still not very much. This time, Hammer Arm hit and was super effective, taking it below half. It went for another Hurricane, and again didn't do too much. One more Hammer Arm, managed to take out the Ice Gym. We actually got a Minchino in the last Wonder Trade, but it's level 67, which is above the champion's best team member, so we're going to have to trade it, see if we can get something different. Bronzor, okay, cool. That's really good actually. We're missing a Psychic type. And Steel's good as well, so I'll take that. Next up was Ortega and the Fairy type Starbase. We started with Serperior again and terrestrialized immediately. I went for a Leaf Blade because it was super effective against its Azumarill, and we nearly took it out in one hit. It retaliated with a bounce, meaning that it would be unavailable to hit for the next turn. For some reason I thought Leech Seed would work, but it didn't, and I probably should have just gone for a Growth. Luckily the bounce missed, and the next turn we went for a Giga Drain to finish the Azumarill off. Next up was Wigglytuff, so we sent in Snorlax. It used the charm to lower its attack, and we went for a Hammer Arm. It didn't do anywhere near as much as I thought it was going to do, and Snorlax's speed fell. It also meant that Cute Charm went into effect and Snorlax fell in love. A Play Rough didn't do too much, but Snorlax was immobilized the next turn. It went for a Play Rough again, and Snorlax's health was starting to go down quite a bit. Snorlax was again immobilized this turn, and I didn't really know what to do. I tried going for a high horsepower to see how much damage it would do, and Wigglytuff used a Play Rough again. This time we broke through, and Snorlax hit its high horsepower. It didn't really do much damage, so I decided to go for a super effective Gunk Shot this turn. Play Rough hit Snorlax into the red and dropped its attack. Once again, it was immobilized, and there was nothing I could do. It's time to switch Snorlax out. I opted for Empoleon here since he has a Steel type, and I went for a Metal Claw, taking the Wigglytuff out in one hit. For some reason, Cute Charm still took effect even though the Wigglytuff fainted, which was a bit weird. Next up, she sent in Dash Bun and went for a Crunch, which didn't do too much. Hit back with a Metal Claw, which also didn't do as much as I thought it would. She went for another Crunch, and I went for another Metal Claw. I was confident Empoleon could take another Crunch as long as it wasn't a critical hit, and luckily it wasn't. This meant we could hit one more Metal Claw and we'd be able to swap Empoleon out. I switched back to Serperior and tried to use a Leech Seed. I didn't realise that it doesn't affect the Reverum, which was kind of annoying since we wasted a turn. It also went for a Confuse Ray, which could be a problem. I went for a Giga Drain, and luckily we broke through the confusion. But Giga Drain didn't really do as much damage as I was hoping. I decided to go for another Giga Drain, but unfortunately this time we hit ourselves in confusion. This was becoming a bit of a problem as Magical Talk took Serperior down to 9 HP, and I needed to swap to Ampharos. It went for another Magical Talk. Luckily Ampharos had more than half health. It went for a Confuse Ray, but luckily Ampharos broke through and hit with a Thunderbolt. This did a lot more damage than the last attack. We decided to go for Thunderbolt again, and it used Magical Talk, knocking Ampharos down to 40 HP. We snapped out of confusion and hit another Thunderbolt. I'm not confident that Ampharos can take another hit, so I switched back to Snorlax and sacrifice him. Magical Talk takes Snorlax out, but it means that I get a clean swap into my next Pokemon. I decided Charizard was the best bet, and of course it went for another Confuse Ray. Charizard managed to break through the confusion and hit a Flamethrower for big damage. One more Flamethrower would be enough to take the Starmobile out, but Charizard is still confused. It manages to break through again and hits another Flamethrower, proving why Charizard has always been the best Pokemon. We beat Ortega and it was time to trade for another team member. Okay, we traded Snorlax and we got a Gengar, but it was from one of those hacker websites, so I'm not going to use it for the run. So we'll see if we can get something better this time, something we can actually use. Okay, is that Sandaconda or something, I think it's called? That's quite a cool one, to be fair. Silcobra, okay. I think it evolves into Sandaconda. After a bit of training, Vibrava evolved into Flygon, and Bronzor evolved into Bronzong. I trained up my entire box team to take on Eri and keep my main team safe, but this very quickly proved to be a mistake, as she knocked out every single one of my box Pokemon in one go. This was really bad, and I didn't even manage to take Eri down. I went back with my main team, and I decided to start with Bronzong. A Sucker Punch did decent damage to Bronzong, but I managed to take the Toxicroak out with one Psychic. This was already better than last time. I switched to Charizard for Lucario and missed a Fire Blast. It retaliated with a Dragon Pulse, but luckily it didn't do too much damage. I went for Fire Blast again, and this time it hit. We took the Lucario out in one hit, and this was going a little bit better than last time. I decided to keep Charizard in and go for an Air Slash. We did big damage to the Persimmon, but one close combat finished Charizard off. This was a big problem. My best Pokemon had fallen to Eri, and I didn't know what to do next. I switched into Ampharos since it had Dazzling Gleam, and a close combat nearly knocked it out in one hit. Luckily this meant we could hit a Dazzling Gleam and take the Persimmon out. Eri still has two other Pokemon, and this is not going well. I decided to switch to Bronzong for the Annihilate, and it hits a Fire Punch, which I didn't even realise it had. Super effective damage. Psychic didn't even do too much either, and it went for a Rage Fist, taking Bronzong down too. I was quickly running out of team members, and I decided to switch into Empoleon, but one close combat took him out as well. There was still hope. If I was able to take Eri down with my remaining team members, I'd be able to trade for another one, and I still had another Titan Pokemon, so I could rebuild the team after this. I decided to send Flygon in, as I thought he was my best hope. I decided to go for Earthquake, and just pray that it could take this Annihilate down. Luckily we outspeed and hit the Earthquake. Finally this Annihilate was out of the way, and it was time to take out the Starmobile. We went for another Earthquake, and it didn't do too much damage. Unfortunately, the Starmobile managed to raise its defense after that, and it went for Shift Gear. This sharply raises the Pokemon's speed, and raises its attack. This is bad. Not only is its defense going up, so is its speed and its damage. I tried going for Dragon Claw this time instead, to see if it would do any more damage. It did even less than Earthquake, and Reverum's defense went up yet again. I went back to Earthquake and just prayed that I could get a critical hit or do some more damage somehow. Another Shift Gear made this thing really dangerous. I landed another Earthquake, and it was doing less and less damage each turn, and its defense just kept going up. No matter how much I thought about it, there was no other option than to just keep clicking Earthquake, as it went for another Shift Gear. Its attack was now at +4, its speed at +6, and its defense would be at +4 after this hit. We got it down to half HP, and it went for a Combat Talk. I'm pretty surprised that Flygon managed to tank that. We went for another Earthquake, and it just wasn't doing enough. After another defense rise, I decided to take a look at my team, and it really wasn't looking good. There was nothing I could switch into, so I had to sacrifice Flygon. Another Combat Talk took Flygon down, and you can see the disappointment in my face. My only hope now was Superior, so I switched in to see what we could do. The situation's looking pretty dire here, so I decided to try and set up Leech Seed. With its +6 speed, it hits a Combat Talk, taking Superior out in one hit. The only team member left is Ampharos, so I send him in. Ampharos does have Dazzling Gleam, which is super effective, but I don't think there's any chance of us outspeeding this thing. Of course we don't, and it hits a high horsepower for super effective damage. This takes Ampharos out and ends the run. Considering this was my first ever Nuzlocke, I'm pretty happy with how I did. I feel like most of the decisions I made were pretty good. I made some stupid mistakes, but so does everyone, and I'll definitely be trying this out again. My next run I'm probably going to go for Pokémon Sword and do an evolution run just in time for the prismatic evolution cards to come out. If you've made it all the way to the end of the video, I really appreciate you watching. I've worked really hard on this video and learnt a lot in the process for my future videos to maybe improve. So if you wouldn't mind clicking subscribe, I'd really appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next video.